Yo, today I want to talk about the nature of Reiki, regeneration and healing, and entropy, and how all these things tie together. I think that most people, when they're approaching Reiki, or even when they're learning it after being attuned or getting into it another way, the biggest problem they have is that the nature of Reiki and what it is, as I've covered in other videos, but I'll cover a little bit more here, goes directly up against one of the most currently foundational principles of logic, reason, and science as it presents itself to us now. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, entropy is something that we now, in the common tongue, understand to be inherent in the nature of the universe. And I think unless you're fundamentally religious, you either have heard about this concept or you know about it through education, either through the internet or through a science class. And that's this. It's basically the idea that the energy and matter that was at the foundational beginning point of the universe is playing out through the natural laws of the universe, and the energy that we observe is playing out the expenditure of itself, meaning what we see, particularly in things like stars, is that the energy that we understand to be matter and to be the stuff of the universe will eventually run out. The universe itself is, I think we're at like 13 billion years old right now, and we know, at least from what we observe with our scientific instruments, that this play of the lifespan of the universe is working itself out and will eventually end in the entire universe falling apart. Matter will be so far apart from itself, the stars will have died out so much that essentially there will be a net zero amount of energy in the universe as it infinitely expands. And I think that because this has become so scientifically firm in our worldwide culture, that we also extend it to the body. And we have every reason to do that because as we look online and as we look in the media and as we look in our hospitals and as we look throughout our family, the body falls apart. We know elderly relatives who wind down and die. We know that people who can be perfectly healthy can have one wrong thing go wrong with one precious organ, and all of a sudden they're lost to us. So this idea of the unraveling of matter and the extinguishing of our lives and the dissolvement into chaos, into nothingness, applies in our minds not just to the universe itself, but to our bodies. And that's kind of the language that a lot of people use as they get older. How are you doing? My knee has been acting up. And people end up talking more about what's going wrong with their bodies than the lovely things that their bodies allow them to do, which we appreciate more in our youth. I think that idea, this foundational, rock-solid scientific idea of entropy, directly contradicts with what I know and what fellow Reiki practitioners know about the nature of Reiki. Let's take first the Rei, the idea of this eternal, universal, benevolent intelligence, and apply that to what I think most skeptics would argue against it about the universe, and that is determinism, meaning that, as we said, the matter is expending itself, the energy is delineating itself due to the playing out of the laws of the universe. So instead of understanding Reiki as another form of matter, one of the things that I like to equate it with is like a law of the universe. I like using gravity with this, but so many scientists tell me that like eventually we'll find a gravitron, a particle responsible for gravity, which could arguably be the Higgs boson, but it's not. And likewise, I think arguments could be made that there are particles responsible for strong and weak nuclear force. But ultimately, even if you go down to the passage of time, there are energetic forces in the universe that are, for lack of a better term, written into the functioning of the universe itself. Gravity from the sun affects our planets and our entire solar system and keeps them in the balance that they're in, and the sun doesn't have to reach out an arm and touch the other planets in order to keep it that way. The law of gravity is written into the universe, and I really think that Rei and Reiki could be classified as that. But I think one of the main things that comes up in that regard is the intelligence. And people who are for determinism and understand science, most of them believe that these laws of the universe are not in and of themselves intelligent. There is not a gravity mind. There is not a strong, weak nuclear force mind. These are dead mechanical processes that go on behind the scenes in our universe, and maybe one day we'll discover a particle that's responsible for them, but for the time being, they are simply dead, positronic, algorithmic equations that impose themselves on our reality. And that is something that, in my mind, goes along with Ki itself, in that this energy that we tune into, be it creatively or for exercise or for healing like we do, is something that doesn't seem to be itself affected by those forces. I would argue that, like, if you do a meditation exercise or you get your body moving with calisthenics or martial arts, then yes, you will spur up the energy, but the energy's existence isn't dependent on you summoning it. The energy is always there to be acquired, I would argue, much in the same way that gravity, regardless of its energy, then regardless of the fuel that gravity needs to function, gravity just functions, so too does Ki. You can harness this energy for yourself, you can feel the energy moving in you and moving you towards health if you access it, and you can access it anywhere. I would even argue that if you were in a spaceship flying somewhere off Earth, you could probably access it too, because it's intrinsic in the universe. And this is why that Reiki, practicing the energy work, is called practice rather than thinking of it as a dogmatic religion or a science that requires certain definitions and certain procedures in order to work. The practice can evolve in any way that you do, and will evolve right along with you as you apply it to your own body, to your own mind, and to your own environment and to your behaviors. To do that requires a choice, and that choice is to accept, for the moment, irrationality, because there's no way that you can understand the nature of this energy, Ki, without participating in it and hooking yourself up to it and practicing with it. You can't read an article that explains every bit of it and then be a master as soon as you start using it. You have to practice. And that practice begins with the choice to open up your imagination to the idea of, hey, maybe I can heal myself. Maybe I can use this energy that people have known about for millennia in order to benefit my life. And I'm not saying that practicing these energy works and using Reiki exempts you from needing things like an appendectomy, or that you don't need surgery to remove a cancer node in your lung. But at the same time, I think that your body and its energy and its intelligence impresses itself upon us if we are open to the understanding of it. I think that the ray in the Reiki and our body's own memory systems dating back hundreds of thousands of years can be accessed through the understanding that perhaps the ways in which your body and your mind and this energy informs you may not be entirely logical. And I think that that makes itself most apparent when you start having coincidences when you're doing this practice. There's going to be a lot of times if you start working on yourself, if you start working on your environment, if you start trying to find the balance in your life, that things will work out for you, or your body might feel a little better, and you may not be able to explain it rationally to someone else, and you'll have to just know it for yourself. And I think that's one of the hardest parts of the job, and I think it's why a Reiki master like me is called a Shinpiden, which in Japanese means mystery teaching. Not mystery teacher, mystery teaching in action. I'm still very much learning about the mystery myself, and if you ever come upon someone who's been practicing any energy work in any regard, who says they have all the answers, man, they ain't it. Because in my opinion, most of us, are only at the precipice of understanding the potential of this energy and its potential upper limit in terms of making our bodies, our minds, and our world a better place. And I think that's done through allowing this energy to be through us and to accentuate us and to help us realize, the grandest version of the greatest vision that we can become. And I don't think we do that by forcing ourselves to be better or forcing our bodies to be what they want, but what we want, but allowing ourselves to be what we are. And what we are beings that are capable of marshaling a whole lot of energy and a whole lot of attraction-based physics or metaphysics to our cause and to our lives in order to create what we want. So, thanks guys. Hope you're all having a good weekend, and I'll catch you next time.